Hey guys, and welcome back to my studio. It's so good to see you again here this week. It's kind of a gloomy, rainy, cold day outside, but it's perfect for talking about our topic today, and that's shooting fall colors. As you can see over my shoulder, this weekend could quite possibly be the peak weekend for fall foliage color in my neck of the woods in Oklahoma. Now, did you miss the window to get out and take advantage of fall colors in your neck of the woods? Well, it really depends on when you find this video and where you're located on whether or not that's true. But I want to share with you today some tips and some lessons that I've learned on trying to find and capture all that glorious beauty of fall foliage. So stick around and we're going to get into mastering fall color. Okay, so I've already shared with you guys that I really started my photography journey in the spring of 2019. So this fall was really my first opportunity to get out and shoot some fall color, and I really wanted to take advantage of that. So I kind of started early, and that's my first tip for shooting fall color, is to start early. Now, I did this kind of on accident because I started off driving to the photo workshop that I do with Hudson Henry in Moab, Utah. But the route I took was actually through southern Colorado. I went through Pagosa Springs and Durango, and I was just scoping out to see what kind of color was already happening in the latter part of September. Now, I was a little disappointed to find out that the color hadn't really even started to change yet. It was just sort of like a tired green. Nothing had really turned yellow or golden or orange or anything like that. But the thing about getting out early is you can find beautiful locations and scope out some areas that may give you some color in just a few weeks. So I would say the rule number one is just to get out early and explore. So the second thing that I've learned is to actually research where the fall color is going to be. Now, a lot of people plan fall trips and travel and destinations based on being able to see beautiful fall colors. So you'd be amazed at how much information is actually out there on the internet. If you Google it and start researching it, going on to Facebook groups, going on to different websites, I found a really cool tool on SmokyMountains.com. They actually published an interactive map that has a little slider that goes across the bottom, and you can actually go from week to week and watch how the color changes through the different regions from week to week, and how it kind of makes a dip down to the south, and it changes from kind of the yellows to the oranges to the browns, and I think they've done a pretty good job with it. It's fairly accurate, I've found. Now, when I started researching and I learned that the peak aspen color season in Colorado was going to be like late September, mid to late September, I really wanted to take advantage of that window. So on my boys' fall break, I decided to hop back in my truck and almost retrace my steps and go back through Colorado. I had wanted to take them to the Great Sand Dunes National Park. You may remember seeing that on my last video. I shared some of the experience of being on the Great Sand Dunes, which was amazing. But there was that call and that allure that was drawing me to go back into that Pagosa Springs area. So I kind of just drugged the boys with me and we headed that way. And we kind of made a zigzag pattern across southern Colorado, and we went through Wolf Creek Pass. Now, a thing that kind of happened that really was unfortunate this year is that Colorado got an early winter storm, and it just dipped way down into Colorado. It froze, and they really didn't have much of a window of color this year, because I guess that freeze just really shocked the trees, and there was only a few days that had any color. So that brings me to my third point, and I did this also by accident, and that's just to drive in a north to south fashion looking for where that fall color is at its peak. Because if you're just at one latitude, then you may miss the window if you're just driving across an area that was all the trees have frozen and everything kind of happened at the same time. But if you start somewhere in the north and you drive down to the south, especially if you make like a zigzag pattern, you may find some regions that weren't affected as much by that frost, or that start having some trees that are at peak color. That's exactly what happened when I went across Wolf Creek Pass. It seemed like the trees there were sort of isolated from that winter storm. and I found a little pocket of aspen trees that were absolutely in their maximum peak golden color. So I kind of pulled the truck off beside the road on Wolf Creek Pass, and miraculously we had cell service. So my boys were in the back and watching YouTube videos and playing video games while I hopped out with my camera and dove over the hill and shot this image of these aspen trees. And I shot multiple places. I pulled off the road several times and just shot any time that I found some color. And it was true. I mean, not all parts of Colorado have this kind of color, and it was real limited in what I found. I found some pockets with aspen, and other parts the aspen had already turned and the leaves had fallen. And actually in a couple areas the aspen still hadn't even turned yet. So that would be my advice, is just to be willing to drive across different latitudes. And then if you also notice, by going over Wolf Creek Pass, something else that I did by accident is I changed elevation. When you're down in the valleys versus up on top of these mountains, the color can change dramatically. And I noticed that. We drove through Taos, and I noticed how the color changed when we changed our elevation as well. So moving is just a great way to take advantage of finding fall colors where you least expect them. And the further you drive, the more miles you put in, the better chances you have of finding great color. Along the same lines of researching, I would just say communicate with people. Get on Facebook, get on Messenger, email, talk to other photographers. I've made some great relationships with a couple guys out in Broken Bow, Randy Sander and Roy Shiro, amazing photographers, very, very talented, and they're just super nice guys. And I'm about an hour and a half away from Broken Bow. So rather than hopping in my truck and just driving aimlessly and hoping to find something, I can really save some time just by being a good communicator with these guys. Just send them a message saying, hey guys, have the bald cypress changed color yet? Is it worth me hopping in my truck and driving out there? They're completely happy to give me insights on how things are changing, and I can see just by what photographs they post. They get out constantly, and I can look and see what they're bringing back to sort of gauge whether or not I want to make a trip out to Broken Bow. So never underestimate just what a little bit of communication effort will get you. And say you're going to cross the country. You don't even have to know people. Just call a state park. Call the ranger station at a state park. Call a hotel. Talk to the receptionist and say, hey, I'm in Oklahoma, but I'm making a trip to Colorado. I'm curious. Have the leaves started changing, or are they at peak color around you? You'd be amazed at how much people love to talk about this. So never underestimate also what just a random phone call to a stranger can tell you. Another thing that I would say is to revisit places that you just know continually deliver. I've had that experience this year in 2019 by shooting one of my favorite locations, and that's Price's Falls near Davis, Oklahoma. Just when you're in this location, you know that God is bringing beauty to this area. Spring, summer, fall, and winter. It's just an amazing place. So if it's beautiful in the spring and it's beautiful in the summer, I would have to reason that it's also going to be beautiful in the fall. So without even knowing anything, I had an opportunity to stop back by Falls Creek last week when I made a trip to Oklahoma City. And I was driving, and the exit for Falls Creek was coming up, and before I even knew it, I was on that exit ramp, and I was down in the Falls Creek area with my wading boots on, and I was down in that water on another miserable day. It was overcast, but this waterfall was running big. It had rained, it was wet, and it was just unbelievable. I just got there with my tripod and my camera, and I found an area where the water had just washed some colorful leaves up and just sort of placed them there. And I just had to put my camera down and start shooting. There's nothing I could really do to even make this scene more beautiful. In fact, I tried to take one little colorful leaf and place it there for a little extra color, and immediately the water just washed it away. There was nothing I could do to improve upon what God had already done there. So I just said, okay, fine. I'm just going to leave it like it is and just shoot it like it is. And I'm pretty impressed with the way God put all this color together, and just being there in that moment was amazing unto itself. But I would have never gotten that picture if I hadn't just whimsically taken that exit. So revisit places that just are special to you, because if they've given you beauty once, they can probably give you beauty again, especially in the fall. Now, another thing that I have learned by accident this year is to visit places more than once, because from week to week the color changes, the weather changes, the lighting changes, and you change as a photographer. So for the last 2 weeks I've gotten up early. The time just changed last weekend, and that was really the last hurrah for me to be able to get up at a reasonable hour and get down to Broken Bow and beat the sunrise. So the last couple weeks, got in my truck and went down to Broken Bow, and I shot along the old dam area, and then last week I went down to the Lower Mountain Fork area and shot bald cypress. And the first week I was there, the temperature was kind of warm. There wasn't really a whole lot of fog, and I did find some color. I did find some captivating areas, and they were beautiful, but they still weren't quite to that peak color. But then last week I went back and I got a little bit more color, but a nice little surprise that I got was that the temperature really dropped. And I had a conversation with Randy about that. As far as being on my apps, you know, like I've taught you guys how to do, be on clear outside and look to see what the weather conditions are going to be. It called for 100% visibility, 0 cloud cover in any form, 0 fog. However, because the water temperature coming out of the lake was so much warmer than the outside air, I got a ton of wonderful, glorious fog. So I got there early in the morning before the sun came up, and I just started shooting these bald cypress out in the water, and that fog was just raising up off that water, and there were certain times where you couldn't even see across the river. And then there would be a clearing where the fog would kind of break up, and then I could see the trees behind, and then the fog would come back. And so I learned just to sort of stay there and just keep shooting, because the conditions changed so quickly from one moment to the next, from second to second. It's almost like the white balance changed because the way the light was filtering through the fog changed, and it just made for some really, really neat opportunities. And then I walked further down, and as the temperature raised a little bit, the fog started to break up, and I could see more through the trees, and I ended up with one really, really special image that I think is now one of my favorite images I've shot all year. And it was kind of a challenge to get to, because the way the fog was moving, the rays of sun as it backlit this bald cypress were really hit and miss. The sun rays were there, and then as soon as the fog moved, they were gone, and then I would have to wait a little bit, and then the fog would come back again, but it would be too thick and it wouldn't really make the sun rays. Then it would vanish completely and be totally clear. And I had to stay in that posture, stay in that position, just almost with a strain in my neck and my back, because the tripod was almost, I was on my tippy toes to try to get this thing. Well, finally, the fog made a pattern that was just perfect. And I snap, 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 and I got like a little panorama where I got these sun rays in. So you're just constantly learning when you're out there. And that's what I love about photography. You never come back the same photographer as when you go out. You always learn, you always improve, and God shows you things you never thought you would learn. One little anecdote is, I saw for the first time a bald eagle fly over my head, turn and dive. And I was completely ill-prepared to take that shot. So I'm sorry to disappoint, but I do not have this National Geographic worthy shot of a bald eagle diving for a fish. It happened right in front of me, but I was not in the right spot, didn't have the right lens. I wasn't even closely prepared for this. But God just shares things with you that's like, hey, next time you might want to have that 200 to 500 lens on your camera, and you might want to be in a clearing where you're not obstructed to see the water, because something amazing might happen. So I'm just blown away that when you just get out early and walk up and down the river, the wondrous things that are going on all around you with fog and light and eagles and wildlife and otters and all this kind of stuff, it's just mind-blowing. So in the fall, I will have to report that all year long, one of the biggest things that I've learned is just it's never a bad idea to get your butt out of bed and get out and shoot photography. So I'll have to admit that I am now in love with shooting fall color. This was my first real season as a landscape photographer, getting out and attempting to shoot fall foliage, and I covered a lot of miles and got some pretty cool pictures that I'm really proud of as a result of that effort. But I want to encourage you to get out and do the same. If you haven't missed your window, then this weekend get out and shoot fall color. And remember, get online and research the area. Look at things like SmokyMountains.com, that map that they posted. It's really amazing. Talk to people in Facebook groups. Make phone calls. Send emails. Look at blogs where people have posted insights on where to find the best fall color around you. You'd be amazed at how much information is out there. So I encourage you to get in your car, take your camera, and go. If you haven't missed the window of fall color peaking in your neck of the woods, then I wish you the best of luck this weekend on getting out and shooting in your area. Now, I'm going to get out this weekend and try to shoot on Talamina Drive. I just found out that that's really the place that's going to be the most peak color this weekend, and it's really shaping up to be. The weather is going to be sunny, the color should be peaking, so I'm even hoping to continue shooting this weekend. So I hope this video has been valuable to you. I hope you've gotten something from this. If you have, please click subscribe and consider subscribing to my channel and sharing it with your friends. And click like, and also make sure you click that little bell so that you'll know every single time I go live with another episode. Now, I just absolutely am convinced that God has fall especially for us. The changes of the seasons is something that He ordains every single year for us. Maybe it just, for me, it helps me because I'm kind of sad at the end of summer that it's getting cold and that warmth is going away and it's starting to get cold, and pretty soon it's just going to be miserable outside. And I think it's just that last little message from God of just at peace with the seasons changing, that He paints such wonderful, beautiful colors for us. So I hope that we can all get out there and explore God's creation with childlike wonder this week, and good luck as you get out and shoot some fall colors. Hope you find something amazing. If you do, post the pictures in the comments, and if you have any questions for me, I'd love to hear those too. Give me feedback, post questions, I'd love to have a discussion with you. But good luck this week as you get out and shoot, and I'll see you next time on the next episode. And if you just haven't gotten enough of me this week, here come links to 2 more awesome videos. Thanks, guys.